welcome everybody. This is one of our quarantine special editions. We're going to be talking about the gig economy and some of the challenges of folks who are in the gig economy, which is being greatly impacted right now by the coronavirus and shelter in place and all that sort of thing. My name is Steve Sampson. I'm the video producer for Rena-Fi, and I'm here with Warren Wolf, who is a musician. Warren, can you say hi to the folks?
Hello, everybody. Warren Wolf here from Baltimore, Maryland.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. We also have Cliff Prang, who is an actor and comedian. Cliff, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Hello. So Cliff,
Thank you.
Cliff has joined us a couple of other times, but he still doesn't quite have the fact that Zoom doesn't switch over until you talk. So we didn't get to see his wave and everything like that.
Oh, I'll say hi, and now I'll wave.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you so much. And then Rick, who is our founder and CEO. Rick, thank you for joining us as well.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out, but hello, everybody. Looking forward to the show.
So Rick and I, well, actually, Rick is not on the gig economy. I'm kind of on the gig economy, although I have more steadier gigs, and my gigs are remote because a lot of what I do is remote presentation, public speaking, coaching, and a lot of video editing. So I don't have to interact with people and I don't have to have an audience. But Warren, as a musician, and Cliff, as an actor and comedian, I would imagine that you have been greatly impacted by everything. Warren, let's start with you. What has been the impact for you on your income earning right now?
Well, a lot of the shows that I was supposed to do going back to last month, say around March 10th or 11th, everything has been canceled from that point up until so far, at least September.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, when things first started, I was actually in Oakland, California at the Paramount Theater. I was working with a vocalist by the name of Cecile Lauren Salvant, and we were on stage. We had just finished sound check, and we were getting ready just for the ensemble check, just to make sure everything was right. And our general manager of the band came up to the conductor and said, "Hey, we need to talk for a few seconds." And I saw when it happened, I was like, something looks strange here. And within 5 minutes, they came back and they said, "Sorry guys, this concert is not happening tonight." And from there, I just received email after email after email after email just saying, "Sorry, this is either being canceled or it's being rescheduled." So as of right now, again, no live performances for me, like with an actual audience, until possibly September. And we'll even see what happens then, because I think a lot of people will be pretty nervous about coming out and being jam-packed into a theater or a club or, whatever it may be, for quite some time.
Sure. So that's basically 6 months worth of work just gone in one fell swoop. Wow.
Yep.
Cliff, what about you? How have things impacted you?
Yeah, it's the same story, not as dramatic. Man, I can't imagine being on stage ready to go and then having essentially the mic pulled out from you. But I was basically worked for the next 6 months. There's a couple things that are still pending for the summer. I'm supposed to speak at a camp in the summertime, but I'm not expecting that's going to go through. All my events, April, May, June, July. I had one cancel in October already, just because for people too, it's the planning, it's the ripple effect. They're saying maybe up to a year of restrictions. And then even for those organizations that have hired me to MC their events or speak at their events or whatnot, their budgets, they don't know where they're going to be at. The nonprofits hiring me for fundraisers or whatnot, who knows where they're going to be at. So first thing to go, in a lot of situations will be their galas and their entertainment and those pieces. So the non-essential piece, and I don't take that personally. That's reality. The things that have to happen and the things that are bonuses and frills. That's me. I'm a frill.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, it makes it tough because entertainment or even like for you, I know, Cliff, I introduced you as an actor and comedian, but you do a lot of speaking engagements and a lot of emceeing engagements. But for both Warren and Cliff, for both of you guys, you need an audience. And right now, audience, it's verboten. You know, we can't gather like we have been before. Are there things that you have? Well, actually, you know what? Sorry, let me put that off for a minute. What about the people that you know, right? Your colleagues, your fellow musicians, all the up and coming comics, that sort of thing. Is this just across the board devastating? Is it like what are your communities doing? What are the musician communities and the actor, comedian, what are they all doing right now?
This is across the board, no matter the style of music. Something just came to mind, like symphony orchestras have been having problems in general for years. And I can only imagine like what they're going through, but no, across the board, like I'm primarily a jazz musician, but a lot of friends who I know who work with bigger artists, who work with like such companies like Live Nation, all of those companies are just gone. They're not gone, but they're just kind of temporarily shut down right now. So yeah, this is definitely across the board.
Have you, Rick likes to talk about an emergency fund, right? 3 to 6 months, sorry, not an emergency fund, income replacement, like 3 to 6 months of savings so that if your income is interrupted, you can get through tough times.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine for a lot of comedians and actors, that sort of thing, especially up and coming, the cliche, not cliche, but the sort of, maybe it's a bit of a cliche, sleeping on an air mattress and waiting tables and just barely scraping by. So saving money isn't an option. They're doubly hit. Are you guys okay? I mean, without getting too personal, but I mean, are you okay? Do you have spouses who can help out that way, or is it white knuckling it?
I'm actually okay on my end for now, and I don't mean for now as in like next month is going to be trouble. We're actually okay. It's my wife and my 2 kids upstairs. My wife, and I mean, actually, even though I'm not performing, I'm also an educator.
Okay.
On the side, I currently, I'm employed at Peabody Conservatory here in Baltimore, and I also work part-time at San Francisco Conservatory of Music. So I still have income coming in that way, but the bulk of the income really comes from performing. But we're actually okay from right now. I've tried to do many things during this time to actually just keep money coming in, such as private lessons, online teaching. Like I spend a lot of time in front of the computer now. So, there's some other options, it won't be the same amount like what we're used to, but anything can help at the moment.
Right. And what about you, Cliff? How are things impacted? Because I know you've got a son or multiple kids.
I have 3 kids. I got two boys. One just turned 14 yesterday, and then a daughter as well. So there's 3 kids. My wife and I are both fully dependent on people gathering. Like she's a photographer. Weddings, all her weddings have been pulled. So yeah, our family has seen a drastic reduction in income. But as far as again, the way we've conducted our business for as long as we have earned and saved and we'll be fine. And our government, like I'm up in Canada for those who don't know, and there's a monthly emergency relief fund. So my wife and I can both collect that, as well as rent relief, and there's quite the infrastructure in place. The earlier question you asked was how is as far as across the board. Yeah, because for me, I've got my finger in a lot of pies as far as acting, comedy, speaking, all those things. But for a lot of people, they have one outlet, So the film industry is shut down. So all my acting friends, they have nothing right now. All my stand-up comedy friends who do the circuit, even the clubs are suffering, right? There's clubs and bars shutting down because they can't keep business going because they need people to come. So we're seeing a loss of venues as well as a loss of opportunities. So, but as far as my family, we're going to be fine. As Warren said too, like for now, and not, next month, but at some point we're going to need something more significant to happen. So exploring options, how do we keep things moving? Yeah. So that's that answer.
There's that answer. And, it's a serious thing that we're talking about. So the next thing I was going to talk about was, like cutting expenses and things of that sort. And I was going to make a joke about you and your family moving into a barn because of your backdrop. But,
Oh yeah, sure, it's true.
but I won't go there because it's such a serious topic.
Make the joke. Do it. Go ahead.
Oh, well,
You can't hold back. If you got a joke, you got to let it go. That's authenticity.
So that is a conversation I've had with my girlfriend, that you have to respect the setup. If there's a setup, you got to make the joke, even if it's going to get you in trouble. But
gotta make the joke.
Yeah, but it was more of just a mention there. So I want to sort of transition from that to diversity and diversifying and that sort of thing, because yeah, if all you have is one source of income and that source of income goes away, then you're really hurting. But if you can do multiple things. So Warren, you mentioned that you're spending more time in front of the computer, you're doing things online. Mm-hmm. For all of us, we're just going to have to shift to a more virtual mindset during this crisis, but I think it'll continue. That's just my opinion, but I think it'll continue even afterwards. Mm-hmm. Once we've got a taste of working from home, we kind of like that. So I think there will be more virtual stuff going on. What sort of things would you recommend for people who are more single source of income folks? Like for your fellow musicians or your fellow actors and comedians and that sort of thing, what sort of things either are you doing or could you recommend that they might look into to find some virtual gigs? Do you have mm-hmm. thoughts about that?
Yeah, so one of the good things, one of the things that I did and a lot of other musicians have done, they're going out and buying recording equipment. A lot of people, some people have already been doing that for a long time, but since this has happened now, people are buying like an interface for their computers as long as they have some type of setup like Pro Tools or Logic. And, you get the microphones, then you can start doing work for people who still want to continue with their own projects. So you can record from home. That's one option. Something, I'm doing that, and something else that I'm doing, and I'm actually doing one tonight in a few hours, is to record live from a particular venue here in Baltimore. Now what we're doing there, we actually charge people to tune in. Now this could work for probably for any person that's used to performing in the club, like a man said, like when it comes to comedians and things like that. But we charge people $5 to buy a link, and we run the platform through YouTube. And from there, we encourage people to give donations. And I find that it works. Now the only problem is I can't do this every week because you still want to kind of keep things fresh. So you don't want to perform every single week for the same audience. So what I'm doing, I try to perform maybe once per month, and that helps out a little bit. So.
This is my ADHD brain, getting all ambitious all of a sudden, but the idea of kind of a circuit where, tune in and it's Warren this week and it's somebody else next week. And it's almost like a club, a virtual club, mm-hmm. where people just know that they could go someplace and they're going to hear different things at different times. But that's a whole other thing. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there. Yeah.
Cliff, it works on my end. I mean, because typically if I go, I'm not taking the same group in there.
Yeah.
I'm always bringing the special artist in. I mean, of course, that person is local. At this point, I'm not bringing people from New York or anywhere else. We're not doing that. But I always bring somebody local in who has some type of pull. And that makes their people, whoever they like, them be like, wait a minute, he's tuning in with Warren. And that brings in more viewers. And, people during this time, a lot of people just lock to their computers or their phones. And a lot of people, they just want some type of distraction versus hearing the daily COVID briefings and CNN or Fox News, whatever you watch. So I try to just give people a different outlet. And to be honest, that 1 hour that we're playing, it takes people's minds away from the whole thing.
Absolutely. And it gives them something to look forward to and something to talk about afterwards. So it's not just the 1 hour. I mean, there's benefit before and after as well. Mm-hmm. What about you, Cliff? Do you have thoughts about the virtual world now of entertainment?
Yeah, well, it's happening. You know, it had happened before, but now everyone's jumping on. That's the thing you'll notice too when you're on Instagram or on Facebook. You know, so and so's going live right now. Everyone's going live, and so that's like there's positives and negatives of that. One, it's saturated, right? So why would people want to hear me tell my funny thoughts, you know, for the day when you can listen to Mike Birbiglia interview John Mulaney? Because I know where I'm tuning in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so
That's tough to beat.
You got that guy. Now you do have faithful followers and a faithful audience. And when you're talking about virtual club, like our local brewery has entertainment on, you know, every other night. You know, people going live, and so that's the good thing. If you have a local following, you get that. I did a show for them last week, and that was a bit of a. I did 60 minutes of comedy from my bedroom. And it was a weird experience to not have that, you know, active interaction. You get your comments, but then that also kind of breaks you out of flow. So what it's going to force people to do is learn a new way of performing, especially for what I do. You know, where Warren, and this isn't a slight by any means, like musicians are used to playing a club where there isn't a ton of audience interaction, where there's like, you know, it's their skills are not dependent always on the feedback that they're getting from the audience. Whereas as comedy, it's like without the laugh, without the heckle, without the, you know, whatever it is, you don't really know where you're at. And now you're just watching people setting smiley faces up the side of your screen. it's a trip. So
I was watching Stephen Colbert a few nights ago. Which sometimes I watch him pretty often at nighttime. And, you know, he's always making these jokes about Trump, but if any jokes he's making, the thing is he's telling these jokes and you don't hear anything.
You don't hear it.
But the funny thing is I'm laughing inside, but I'm just like, wow, it's kind of odd to just sit there and laugh, but you just don't hear any type of response. But you know, I hear what you're saying.
Well, and when the late night shows first started doing it from home, they were all talking about how odd it was to be talking to a void and not get any response. And I'm not a comedian, but I used to do corporate training most of my career. So I had a live audience in front of me, and I could tell, I mean, whether it's the expression on their face, whatever, I could tell if an explanation was landing or not. And if it wasn't, then I'd have to paraphrase or do something else. I'd have to try something else. But I knew right away if I was paying attention, if it was working. And I think, Cliff, that's what you're talking about, is you read the audience and you adjust in the moment. And I think, you know, even as a musician, there is audience interaction or feedback. Sure. So I think any profession where you are interacting with a live audience, you feed off of that live audience in one way or another. So the shift to being online, it's very difficult. Rick, I mean, Rick's not part of the conversation, but I'll talk about him anyway. But I know Rick and I have talked about the fact that he doesn't like giving webinars to a camera. He doesn't like talking to a camera. He likes the Q&A. He likes to answer people's questions. He's sort of a natural educator and interactor that way. But that's, a lot of it's been taken away from us there.
Well, you just got to learn, like you got to learn it and practice it, right? I remember the first webinar I gave with you guys, I geared up for a half an hour and I found myself talking fast and ripping through all my explanations, and all of a sudden I realized, oh no, people still are watching with the same kind of brain speed. It's a skill that needs to be developed now. So the more opportunity to do this, the better we're going to get at it. So. Yeah.
And that's true of anything. There's been an abrupt shift, a paradigm shift in our world right now. And so it's going to take some time for the dust to settle and for us to learn new skills and get comfortable with new things. Rick, did you have something that you wanted to say?
I just wanted to feed into that just a little bit. I find it very hard to be just a talking head for a half an hour or an hour and just kind of go through some prepared script. I have a really hard time with that. I can do it, but I don't feel like I'm getting engagement. I would much rather have the audience, you know, I make a little presentation to get things started, and I'd much rather have the audience ask me questions, because then I really can engage my entire brain, my entire life experience. Everything comes to bear on that. and I feel like I kind of light up and I do much better. And I think the audience, it shows, you know, people know that. So, you know, to what Cliff is saying, I'm thinking that a comedian on stage really draws a lot of their energy from the audience, right? If they're dead silent, quiet, you know, it's like, what am I here? What's going on? But, you know, that same thing with Stephen Colbert. If he doesn't have an audience, I mean, that must really be a different experience for him. Must be tough.
Well, it's exhausting if all the energy is coming from you. But if you're feeding off the audience's energy, I've always found that to be a lot easier to get going.
And
Now,
last thing, I actually think for me, when the audience asks questions, it draws more out of me that I wouldn't be able to produce otherwise. It lights me up. It makes my brain work better. It's an engagement that I think is really important.
Warren, I have a question for you. This is just a thought that I had, and I don't know how valid it is. But for musicians who are looking for work, looking for gigs, and it's not going to be much money, right? But there are a lot of YouTubers out there, and there are more every day now that everybody's trapped at home, who could use music for their videos, right? Original music for their videos. And I would think, you know, if I hired somebody and I said, well, you know, I've got $100, would you create a little theme, like intro music for me? Or to feature a different musician each video, you know, just for $10, just for next to nothing, to create a quick little something, but then they get their name, you know, it's promotional as well. Is that something that a professional musician would be interested in? Or is that more something for like a college kid, way to make a little bit of extra money?
It depends. It all depends on who you are. There are a lot of professional musicians who still don't have a lot of income just in general. So they probably will take that. But nine times out of 10, the typical college student will easily grab that and, you know, work wonders for that. So
okay, something like on Fiverr or up, you know, find somebody who's doing like little piecework sort of thing. Oh, I had another question for you. I'll have to come back to it because I cannot remember right now. And I'm a professional at this sort of thing. So, Cliff, for you, for people who are, you know, make their living with their mouth, basically, right? Being articulate and good on camera, comfortable on camera, or who can quickly learn to get comfortable at something like a webinar, things like that. Do you see this sort of surge of virtual content being an opportunity for voiceover work or hosting work, or, you know, like I could picture you being the new, well, I don't want to put myself out of a job, but, you know, being the new face of some company that doesn't have employees who are comfortable in front of the camera. Do you see that as a possibility?
There's really no limit to the possibilities. And I think that's the big thing right now is there's a lot of fear with what we've lost. Like, we've all lost something. And I'm hesitant to say you should do that or you should do this because this is going to work or that's not going to work. Because right now it's really, what do you still have to give? Like, and that's the thing I keep asking myself. That's what my wife and I are trying to figure out. We're trying to not put too much pressure on ourselves, but it's like, stop focusing on what we've lost and let's think about what we still have to give. And so I can only really reference myself and the opportunities that have been given me and the things that I've been processing. It's you know, when I had a gig in Ottawa that I was supposed to fly to and do, they obviously canceled because they couldn't gather, so they went online. And so then my hour set, because it was a whole day conference event, became a 15-minute set. And they said, could you please still record this for us? And so then, so then I tell a story and a couple jokes and add some motivation in there, and then that's done. You know, I do a chapel every year at a local school. And so they said, hey, could you do a short little message for our kids still? And they're like, yeah. And you send that off. My wife is like, hey, Cliff, you've always wanted to teach drama. Why don't you do some online workshops? And so And I'm also forced to be a teacher to my kids right now. So I put them all in the living room and say, we're playing drama games and people are going to watch us. And it was terrible. I'm not going to lie. They were giving me dirty looks. I'm not getting the feedback from the audience on camera again like this. I want to murder them. They want to murder me. But we did it. And it actually ended up being an encouragement to a lot of parents who are like, my kids hate me too. I'm like, yeah, that's nice that we could come together in that way. And so, but out of that, then a local high school teacher, contact me and ask, hey, can you coach my grade 10s and 11s and 12s as they work on their projects? And I'm like, that's a gig. It's a gig because there was a need. I did a thing. It wasn't good, but then someone said, hey, you can do that for me. And, and so then it's just like, it's about giving. It's about saying, yeah, I can do that. And then learning and adapting and moving forward. Rick threw that in there. It's like, yeah, we're all adapting. That's it. It's an adaptation and evolution.
Yeah.
And we all have something to give, and we got to give. Warren's doing it. I'm doing my best to do it. My wife's doing it. You guys are doing it. And you're offering, you're serving right now. You're saying, hey, we're struggling. So let's give of ourselves to make the people's experience around us better. And out of that, it's going to be relationship. It's going to be trust. It's going to be work.
Yeah. And I think that's, I know, Rick, you've got something to add and I want to get to you, but that idea of just trying something and seeing how it works. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't even have to be good initially. It just has to be done. And then you can parse it. I remember there was an episode with Jimmy Fallon. He was doing something. He was doing, I don't know what it was, but he had both of his girls, and the older girl was holding up signs like she was supposed to, and the younger girl was just supposed to push a sound effect button. And he kept saying, it's the purple, just push the purple. Don't. You could see him getting frustrated. And then eventually she climbed on his shoulder or something and then just ran off. And he was like, but that's sort of authenticity, right? Every parent can relate to, you're never going to get a 3-year-old to do stuff on cue. So those sorts of things I think are great. And we all want to feel connected, and that helps us feel connected. Rick, what did you have?
Yeah, I think it was along the lines of what Cliff had said. It really resonates with me that we shouldn't just be looking at what we've lost, but what is new out there. I gave a short talk at a business group that I belong to just recently. And, I just kind of said, if you really want to see what's going on in the business community right now, you really should be studying Darwin, because we have a new, economy, a new normal that's going to come up. And it's an evolution that has been accelerated. We've already been going online. There's a lot of things that are happening, but the companies, that's, the way my perspective, companies that are going to make it are the ones that don't hang on to the old ideas, that they actually look and see how they can incorporate this new normal that we're going to have. I think it's really crucial. So I think it is really good not to just worry about what we lost and try and hang on tighter, but to look and see what new opportunities are showing up.
Yeah, and I would think for musicians, we've got a musician, we've got an actor, comedian, but there are a lot of people who do gig type of work, not just entertainers.
Right.
So for everybody who is dependent on sort of these small projects or small events or whatever it might be, to find new things to do, like Cliff was talking about, to try new things. And also I want to come back to you, Warren. You had mentioned earlier that you were doing these events and you were charging $5 for the link, but also taking donations.
Yeah.
How were you accepting that donations? What was the mechanism that you were using?
We're just using PayPal.
Oh, just saying, hey, if anybody wants to make a PayPal donation.
Well, once they buy the link, I haven't seen it yet. Like the owner actually has set everything up, but I believe once you buy the link, there's a separate box where it says, click here if you'd like to donate to the musicians. And from there, a lot of people have, this will be my third show tonight, but the first 2 people have donated anywhere from 20 to $50. And we had average 200 people have tuned in for each show. So, it works that way.
Yeah, no, that sounds, I think making it easy for people to donate, and a PayPal donation is just about the easiest way I can think of, unless you've got Venmo or, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to sort of combine that with what Cliff was talking about with, the coaching, the drama stuff with his kids, this is anybody, if you want to try something new, you can try it, ask for donations, donate $1 if you think this is worthwhile or whatever. That might be a way of kind of testing the waters to see, is there value here? Do people find this valuable? And even if they don't, at least then you've got a thing that's out there that somebody might see, like the example that Cliff was giving about him now coaching drama for these high school kids. What about, Warren, I don't know, you've got kids, right? But I would imagine they don't play instruments. You can't incorporate them quite the same way Cliff was able to. So let me direct this question for you, Cliff. Do you have concerns about your kids being on camera? Because, I've got a 3-year-old. She's adorable. I'd love to do some stuff with her. Is that a thing now? With more people being virtual, we're probably going to see more shared pictures and kids on camera, video, stuff like that. The late night hosts do it. They don't seem to be concerned about it. Do you have concerns? Or did your wife?
No, we didn't really have it. And obviously there's concerns. But we can live in that state of terror. My kids had concerns about it. So you mentioned it like I had success in that area, and I did not. So they had concerns, and anyone that wanted to be, predatorial with my kids would be terrified. If you saw my daughter's face and the way she was looking at me, no one would mess with her. So I think it's important to, you got to obviously do what you're comfortable with, and also, you don't want to exploit your kids. So. Yeah. So we were trying to kill multiple birds with one stone with the teaching, and then also offering something to other families. But then when 2 of my 3 kids were like, you know what, I don't want to do this, then we're like, we're not going to force them to do something they don't want to do. And also, you got to be smart with your kids, man. Like you don't put them in situations where, I don't know. I don't want to explore all the situations because it's going to become terrible very fast. So, I'm going to stop talking.
Okay. All right. Good. Yeah. And I'm wondering, anyway, let's move on. So have you considered sort of, let's say, secondary skills, right? Not necessarily things that are your main skill set, but are there things that, that you might be able to get, or that someone else might be able to get, that isn't being an actor or being a comedian or being a musician?
You have to. My lawn looks really good right now. I'm saying that we did some garden work. No, but in all seriousness, I'm having a conversation with one of my clients that's hired me for multiple events. And he said, we need someone to help us with marketing, because the construction industry, renovations and new builds, it's still happening. So he was like, would you be interested in helping us with our marketing? And I'm like, yeah. So, because I'm realizing you got to hold it loosely. This is something I've said in my talk forever. Whether or not I have a microphone or a platform to entertain people and to inspire people, it doesn't matter. It's who I am. So if I'm doing marketing or if I'm mowing lawns, that's still part of me, and that's the goal, is to be able to do what I love doing. But it's not negated if, again, I'm not not on camera. It's a personality overflow, and so you got to find ways to do that no matter what. And I'm not too proud to take on something like another job. I think you got it, because ultimately at the end of the day, I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good husband. I want to contribute to the community that I'm in. And if there's an opportunity available, I'm going to take it.
And I think you never know what's going to come from it, right? You never know.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Taking a job might lead to a gig. It might bring you back around. Warren, you had something?
Yeah, the same thing. You want to be a good dad, be a good husband. I actually, total, I have 5 kids. So my oldest kid is 19. So I have 19, 16, 13, and then 6 and 4. Wow. One thing that I absolutely love to do outside of music, but I have not actually pursued it yet, which I can possibly do like via Zoom with many people, is the world of fitness.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
I'm a huge person, like when it comes to like I love doing cardio based activities such as like running outside. Like my wife, she runs daily, believe it or not. She runs almost every day, at least 10 to 13 miles.
Wow.
For myself, I'm just going to do like maybe 3 at max 4. But at the same time, even outside of running, I love like just talking about different things, like, you know, as far as like bodybuilding. Not saying you want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s, nothing like that. But if you just want to keep in shape. So that's another thing that I've thought about doing, because a lot of people will actually pay for that. I wouldn't go crazy and say, you know, I need $100 per person. You know, we just cut them a break. But I'm not there yet. But it's something I'm considering.
Well, I think that the important thing, and like Cliff, I've heard you use that phrase before, to hold things loosely, to not get locked into a certain mindset of this is what I do and this defines who I am. And if I can't do that, then, you know, what am I, or how can I support my family? How can I be a good dad? There's a ripple effect there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also, I think, the positive ripple effect of trying a new thing, and then that leads to another new thing, and then who knows, you know, Warren might be the first musician exercise YouTube channel guru. You never know.
I'm
You
looking
never know what's-
forward to some shirtless piano tutorials.
Hey,
Yeah.
no.
You gotta hook us up.
And that's what the world needs more of, is shirtless piano tutorials, I think.
Yeah,
But,
tune up with Warren.
you know, I make that joke, but who knows what the world needs, right? Until you try it.
The last stay-at-home mom learning how to play the piano all of a sudden.
Exactly. What thoughts do you have on the other side of where we are now? Right now things are tough, and I think that's going to, you know, maybe weed out some, you know, there's a little bit of Darwinism going on, the survival of the fittest and that sort of thing. But it might be that we have fewer bad comedians, you know, or whatever.
I'm getting into marketing. You heard it. You got rid of one. It just happened.
Do you think there are good sides, or there will be good sides to this whole thing that we've gone through? I mean, do you see that?
I want to give Warren a chance to, like, obviously, yes, there's good sides, there's pros and cons to everything. It's also attitude. Like, what are you choosing to take away? Like we can, my fear is I don't want to project and say this is what's going to happen, or this is, you know, I'm trying to be faithful to the moments that we're in. And granted, that's difficult because there's like waves of like productivity and creativity. And then there's also waves of sadness and discombobulation. I don't know what I'm doing with my day today. So you kind of holding those two things and slowly trying to create, you know, routine and pattern and healthy attitudes. But there's going to be good things because there's going to be new resolve. I think one of the things that's happening, people are being more intentional about relating with each other. I think as we say potentially goodbye, maybe not. Maybe things are going to go back and go right back to the way things were. Who knows? But to not forsake and to turn away from the relationships and the people who have made now possible, and to continue on faithfully with those things. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I'm just like, as I'm like saying, okay, this isn't the way it is anymore. Also just want to be really mindful of the fact that there's a lot of people who have fed my family for the last 5 years, and making sure I go back and affirm those relationships and affirm those people and connect with them, and knowing that their lives are changing too. And as I go forward, to say that that's not over, those things still exist. And then you use those relationships and connections to take it kind of going forward in the future. So more intentionality with relationship, I think, is probably one of the biggest positive aspects of everything that's happened.
Warren, what about you? What are some of the good things that you see coming out of this experience that we're all going through?
I think one of the main things is just for everybody to just slow down a little bit. You know, the whole world, especially, you know, like myself and Cliff, people like us, we're always consistently moving. It's time for us to slow down, just take a step back and just look. You know, one of my friends just created an article. He was just saying Mother Nature is the controller of this whole thing, and she has basically just put a pause on life. Everybody just take a step back and just relax. So, you know, I don't know. It's everything that Cliff said for the most part.
Yeah. No, I get where you're coming from, and I think that idea of pausing and, you know, Cliff was talking about being more intentionality. You know, for a long time, there has been sort of the, let's just say, deterioration of quality family time, or at least that has been the narrative, that we're not spending as much time with our families and appreciating them and that sort of thing. And now we're kind of forced to spend more time with our family, hopefully off of our devices. Hopefully we're actually interacting with each other more. But I think that it has sort of made our world smaller. And there can be good things about that, you know, finding ways to interact or communicate, care in a way that we didn't think about too much before.
Yeah.
Now I want to move from. So I did this in the wrong order. I should have talked about worry and anxiety first, and then the good positive stuff. Sorry, folks. This will be a downward arc here, but. What kind of anxiety or generalized anxiety, other than just loss of income, right? Are there other things that you have worried about? How have you dealt with that? How have you managed the sorts of generalized anxiety or specific concerns about health and safety and stuff like that? How much has it impacted you and your families, and how have you dealt with that? So, Warren, let's start with you. Cliff always gets to talk first. So,
I'll say I'm not really worried about too much. One of the things I've thought about a lot is when it comes to, you know, Rick actually posted something in one of his comments, is like, how will business go back to normal? Like if you have and this is not just related to music, or it can be, if you have a restaurant that normally seats 200, in order to keep that going, will it just go? Will the new rule be, okay, only 60 is allowed? Or, you know, a typical stadium concert, you know, if you have some large group like Red Hot Chili Peppers or something like that holds 50,000, now that's going to be dwindled down to 8,000. So maybe that could be the end of that. You know, I look at stuff like that. I mean, it can even go down to, you know, people who are just very religious in churches, you know, a mega church that holds, like Joel Osteen down in Texas. His church holds, I mean, his church was an old basketball arena. And that could be easily dwindled. But I mean, who knows? You know, that's one of my worries right there. And to be honest, sometimes even when it comes down to like family, I mean, just depending on who you are, some people who are just kind of locked down to each other too much. And if you're with another person who's used to moving a lot and then you're in, that could be a dangerous sign right there. But you know, it's a lot of different things that are out there. But you know, how do you make the best of it? I mean, it's something new that we're all not used to, and it's just something that I guess we all have to take each other's feelings into account and just have to talk about it and try to work through it. You know, one of the things, the challenges that me and my wife had when this whole thing first started was, how can she work? How can I work? But at the same time, homeschool a 6 and a 4-year-old. And even when they're not being homeschooled, they're running around the house acting crazy because they, you know, they're kids, they want to play. So how do we manage all of that and not just be, you know, tense at each other? Yeah. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff right there. But eventually, as time goes on, day by day, you know, people start to figure things out. My opinion.
No, I've got a 3-year-old that I have 50% of the time. So, you know, I'm training her to play quietly while I'm editing video. And, you know, she's 3, so she's not great at it, but she's in just a couple of weeks, you know, 3 weeks or whatever it's been, she's starting to get acclimated to that idea of, you know, when I've got my headphones on, she puts her headphones on and pretends to be typing. And she'll say to me, she'll say, I can't talk right now. I can't talk right now, because I say that to her sometimes. So So it's great. We're working through it. Cliff, what about you and your family?
Oh, just one more comment.
Oh, yeah.
Something else is based off of that, just based off of the kids. Now, that's one thing I do worry about right there, like majorly, because, you know, at least in my lifetime, I've never experienced anything like this. And so all kids that used to going to school and playing with their friends and being engaged with this and that, you know, it's just a different, it's a chance for kids to be away from them parents. Now, because of the whole social distance thing, and, you know, a lot of people are so freaked out by, you know, what we're seeing on TV and what we're hearing, a lot of us parents, and I get it, you know, we're not even allowing our kids to really go outside to engage with other kids. So right now, it's just like in my situation, it's just me and my wife and our 2 kids, and that's all it is. And I mean, I understand, but, you know, they don't have really many outside activities. So what happens, I mean, I give all credit due to my wife, because she's doing a hell of a lot. She's doing, you know, all of these different things around the house. She takes them outside. I'll do a little bit of that too. But, you know, it's not much for them to do outside of that right now.
Yeah. And kids aren't getting they're not getting the socialization that they got from daycare and school and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And who knows when that, I mean, it will continue, but it will happen again at some point, but I think it's going to be different. I don't know how. But
yeah, everything's going to be a little bit different. Cliff, what about you and your family? How are you guys doing with the anxiety, and what do you worry about?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing for, you know, for our kids has been that kind of the social connection and that human connection, and with them kind of getting back into school routine stuff and their, you know, their Zoom meetings and their Microsoft 365 and whatever else, they've been able to reconnect with friends. Like my son turned 14 yesterday. And thankfully we were able to get signs around to all his buddies, and our yard was littered with, you know, happy birthday signs for him and stuff like that. But I think for me, there's like a guilt factor too that goes with me, because it's like, we're fine. Like when I look at what we have and the access, and Rick, you mentioned we have technology, and we're able to process our anxieties together. Like this conversation, even like hearing Warren talking about his industry, it helps to kind of have those conversations and talk about the differences. But in our world is like, okay, so we have to, you know, take the insurance off the car. Like that's our big sacrifice, is that we're a 1-car family now, you know, because we don't need to go anywhere. So let's save some money there. But there's in other places, in other communities close to where we live, and then of course over the ocean, like this is death. Like this is a death. So my anxiety lies kind of globally, where it's like, where people even that aren't affected by virus are affected by, you know, their loss of their minimal income. That's starvation for them. And so the global projections they're terrifying to me. So for me, when I start getting nervous or worried about my job or my aspirations and whether or not I'm going to be able to pursue my dream, like when's the film industry going to get back? Am I going to be able to get back in the stream of auditions, or is it only going to be for the elite? You know, like you said, first world problems. I'm like, I don't want to become so self-absorbed that I forget that, you know, that we've got it so easy. Like I coped by buying wood to build a new garden fence. I spent money to deal with my boredom.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, that is a first world option that we have there. You know, one thing we're talking about technology that occurs to me is the phrase that we've been using is social distancing, but what we're really talking about is physical distancing.
Yeah.
You don't have to distance yourself socially because we have technology, because, you know, like, since we're not getting out much, I just did a Zoom meeting with my brother and one of my nieces in Ohio, with myself and my daughter, so that she could talk to her Uncle Mike and her cousin, and we could do things that way. Even friends of mine who live close by, who we normally get together and play board games once in a while, we're playing games on our iPad, but we're still connecting via Zoom. So we can all be playing games on our iPad, but still have that social interaction. And I think that is a key thing for me, is to not feel isolated. I don't mind being physically separated from the world. I kind of like it in some ways, but to not be socially isolated, I think, is going to be kind of key. both from an emotional standpoint, but also from an income standpoint. The more networked we are, the more opportunities can be available to us. Like you saw, Cliff, with your drama coaching thing, or Warren, you're doing the musician stuff. Someone might say, hey, we're doing a cool virtual thing. We would love to have you, or do you know somebody who might need some work who, would fit into this slot? And I think there's more opportunity to make and stay connected virtually. And maybe this shift to working virtually and playing virtually will facilitate that. I don't know. Rick, do you have, oh, sorry, Cliff, you had something?
No, I was just gonna say that when you said that kind of sparked something in me. The idea of like, yeah, there's these virtual gatherings that are happening, these opportunities, and yeah, maybe Warren, you want to come and do a set. We're having a little birthday gathering online. It's like, oh, we got a guest. Warren's gonna sing some songs for us. Just could you pay Warren, guys? Could you just throw Warren a few bucks? I just like I've been receiving these like, oh, hey, we're having our online gala. It's like we're looking for a comedian to do 10 minutes. Would be willing to donate their 10 minutes to our things. Like, hey, the reason you're meeting online is because we can't gather, and that comedian who can, yeah, sure, I could give you 10 minutes, but could you just pay me? Why not? Hey, because I got no work anymore. so
there have been folks I've seen. I think Ellen did this. She mentioned something about ordering deliveries to try to support the local restaurants, to try to help them out. But everybody needs to be helped out. And so if it's I could totally see if I'm doing a gathering with my friends, a birthday thing, whatever, we're doing it online, to say, hey, I know a guy who does comedy. Could I, and talk to you to say, look, I only have $50, would you do 10 minutes for $50 kind of thing, something like that.
Yeah.
But I would love to see on Upwork and Fiverr, I would love to see musicians and comedians and actors, whatever, start to put themselves up there so that it isn't just voiceover. It's I'll MC your totally lame virtual gathering, right? If you're having a Fortnite tournament, I'll write some Fortnite jokes, right? I'll open for you. I would love to see that sort of thing to get us thinking outside of the box of what is entertainment and how can we support people and what different things could we do. In fact, I'll hire both of you guys, not that I have any money, but I'll hire both of you guys and it'll be like, Warren's going to play the piano in the background while Cliff does some jokes, and then we're going to just play Potion Explosion or something like that.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
Sold. You lost me at Fortnite jokes, but the other stuff sounds good.
Well, you'll have to do some research. I don't play Fortnite, but I know it's a big thing with the kids these days.
I bet you do now. You will now.
I will now look it up. Rick, yes, you have something?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. One of them was sparked by something Cliff said. I think there is a certain amount of what I think would be characterized as survivor's guilt. Some people are being far more impacted than others in this. And something I got from another venue that was talking in, not venue, but another group, they were worried that no one would have money to pay them for anything anymore because everybody was going through this thing. And it's true, we're all going through it, but we're all going through it differently. We all live in different worlds. And there are people out there that are not impacted negatively or actually being positively impacted money-wise. And I think it would be good for anybody in the gig economy to start recognizing that and realizing there's plenty of people out there that still have money and they want to help. They have this kind of survivor's guilt. They really want to help where they can because they feel like that they are capable of it and that they would like to do that. So I think this idea of Patreon, donations for things, I think you might find that people have more money than you might think because not everybody is struggling. The other thing really quick is it is physical distancing. I know in my own family, I've got 4 daughters. One of them lives in Mexico City, one of them is in Australia, and 2 of them live like 4 miles from me and I hardly see them, right? So we have weekly get-togethers now, which we weren't doing before, and the entire family of 6 is on Zoom. We're all in separate locations, we're all physically distant, but I feel like it's kind of brought some things closer for us. Of course, my kids are adults and they're starting to have their own kids now, but we get to see that too. I get to see my 2 grandkids, neither of which is in this country, and I don't get to see them very often. So now I get to see them once a week. So I think it's cool. I think the world's adapting, it's changing, and we need to adapt with it as best we can.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to say, we're right about out of time here, but everything is shifting. And especially if you're in the gig economy, there are all kinds of challenges. And, you know, my heart goes out to all of you. I wish you luck. I'm in the gig economy too, but you know, I'm less impacted because my work is virtual. But, you know, we'll figure out ways to get through it. Rena-Fi, you can always come visit us. Not that that's a hoot, but you can come visit us at rena-fi.com, rena-fi.com. Warren and Cliff, let me just toss it first to Warren, then to Cliff. Just your contact information. So if anybody does want to reach out to you, what's the best way? Warren, what's the best way for folks to reach you?
Website, www.warrenwolfmusic.com, or any of the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. My handle is just Warren Wolf, the number 1, all just one word.
Warren Wolf, and then the digit, the number 1. Okay.
No E in Wolf.
No E in Wolf. Okay, got it. Just like the animal wolf.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Warren. And Cliff, how can folks reach out for you?
I'm Cliff Prang, prang.com. And then on social media too, it's at Cliff Prang, pretty much all the way across the board. Excellent.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate your time, your insight, sharing things with us. And for everybody who's watching, thank you. We appreciate if you're watching live. Thank you for joining us live. And if you're watching this video on our YouTube channel down the road, thank you again for your time and attention. We really appreciate it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.